Sunday dinner, I said. I'm not following the family rules anymore. The room froze, then the group chat exploded. No more last-minute favors, no more guilt loans, no more default yes. They called it betrayal, Grandma called it honesty. Here's what happened, and how we still ate together. I timed the refusal for a Sunday because our family worships routine, and I wanted witnesses. The house smelled like lemon cleaner and roasted chicken, the soundtrack of compliance. My mother set out the good plates because my brother's kids were coming, which meant everyone would be on their better behavior until they weren't. My father tuned the radio to the station that made him feel like time was a circle and not a line. I'd spent the morning pacing my room, rehearsing sentences that didn't beg. I am my mother's eldest daughter, and I've been the soft landing for other people's choices since I learned the shape of yes. Our family rules were printed nowhere and everywhere. Be available, be polite, eat what's served, don't bring up money, don't contradict elders, don't say no if yes can be bent into shape. The rules worked for people who liked to give orders and for people who mistook silence for peace. They worked less for me, a woman whose spine had learned to whisper. I set the table, took a breath, and pictured the new rule I wanted to bring into the room. I will tell the truth about what I can and cannot do. When everyone settled kids with crayons, aunties comparing prices like a sport, my father carving the paws arrived, small and golden. I said, I'm not following the family rules anymore. It wasn't a tantrum, it was a weather report. My mother, who hates surprises unless they arrive as gifts, laughed once like she could convert my sentence into a joke. Whose rules then? She asked, eyebrow high. Mine, I said. The room snapped, invisible and loud. My brother smirked into his water. My auntie clutched her necklace as if pearls could be life preservers. My father set the knife down as if it had suddenly remembered it was sharp. I told them what it meant in plain words. I wouldn't be cooking for every event, hosting extra people without notice, lending money without a plan, changing my schedule because someone texted urgent about something that wasn't. I wouldn't be the mediator for fights I didn't start. I wouldn't swallow my opinions like seeds and wait for a garden to grow inside my stomach. The kids kept coloring because children understand that declarations are adult toys. The adults did what adults do when a ritual breaks. They looked for a scapegoat and a strategy. My mother spoke first, laying the quilt of guilt. After all we've done for you, she said, quiet as a blade. My father said the word respect like it could smash my sentence back into clay. My aunt asked if I'd been reading the wrong books. My brother asked who had put this idea in my head. My back, I said, and straightened it. My mother asked if this was about a man and seemed disappointed when I said it was about a woman, me. My father asked how long I planned to embarrass him. I said I wasn't embarrassing anyone. I was relocating the weight of my own life to where it belonged. The air changed. The gravy congealed. The dog went under the table to breathe where rules couldn't find him. The refusal had been spoken. Now it had to be lived. The backlash arrived dressed as concern and armed with history. In our family, history is both altar and weapon. By Monday morning, the auntie group chat had evolved into a tribunal. Screenshots rolled in from cousins I like and cousins I endure. Are you okay? Did you really tell your mom you won't help with grandma's appointments? I didn't. Is this a phase? It isn't. My mother, offended at the speed of my rumor, sent me a paragraph that began with, since you were little, and ended with, we didn't raise you to be selfish. My father tried strategy, a Google link about filial piety, and a passive-aggressive thumbs up. My brother sent a video of the kids saying, we love you, like a hostage tape made of sugar. I walked through work with my phone on Do Not Disturb and my body buzzing like a trapped wasp. At lunch I called Noor, my best friend and translator for Storms. She said, you drew a boundary in a room that makes murals out of guilt. Wear your raincoat. I went home and wrote my rules the way other people write recipes, clear and numbered. 1. I don't host without agreeing in advance. 2. I don't lend money. I can gift small amounts I choose. 3. I don't mediate fights unless both sides ask and accept my terms. 4. I don't change plans last minute unless someone is bleeding. 5. I don't pretend to agree to keep the peace. I printed 2 copies, one for my fridge, one for my mother's kitchen. It felt silly and adult and precise. A trifecta I recommend. Tuesday evening, I brought the paper over like bread. My mother read it the way you read a label on a product you want to return. So you're too good for us now, she said. No, I answered. I'm good for me. That's new. My father tested the borders. What if your aunt needs a ride at midnight? She can call a cab, I said, or ask a person who didn't work 12 hours. My mother tried story. When I was your age, I took care of my parents without complaint. I said, I'm not complaining, I'm clarifying. She blinked like I had spoken a new dialect that sounded suspiciously like English. The next day, a family meeting was declared. Family meetings are our version of war with snacks. We gathered in my parents' living room with tea and a plate of cut fruit, the fruit always cut too soon, soft at the edges. Auntie sat like jury, uncles like commentary, cousine like audience. My mother opened with the thesis that our family is strong because we sacrifice. She looked at me as if I were an advertisement for selfishness. I nodded. Sacrifice is noble when it's chosen, I said. It's theft when it's assumed. The room inhaled as one organism. My father demanded respect. I gave it, in full sentences that didn't curtsy. My brother asked who would do the birthday cakes now. Anyone who wants cake, I said, can bake or buy. My auntie whispered, shame, and I let the word pass by like an old relative who always says the wrong thing. I offered alternatives. A calendar for rides to grandma's appointments, a shared fund for emergencies, a rotating dinner schedule. My mother said systems were cold. Systems keep us from burning out, I said. Cold is pretending everything is fine while resenting each other quietly. The kids played on the floor and built towers that fell and were rebuilt without anyone taking it personally. I envied them. The meeting adjourned with everyone agreeing to think about it. Which in our family means the real conversations will happen in kitchens and cars, away from the minutes and the mediator. I went home to my quiet and felt terrified and taller. Retaliation hid inside kindness. The next week, my mother forgot to tell me about a cousin's engagement dinner until 2 hours before. We knew you're busy, she said, sugar over glass. We didn't want to pressure you. I had plans, laundry, and a book and a bath that lasted until I remembered I am allowed to prune. I said, I'll send a gift, and I'll see her next week. My mother's sigh traveled through the speaker like weather. My father needed help moving a cabinet that could have been moved by any working set of arms. He called me because mine have always arrived. I'm free Saturday, I said. Not tonight. He made the joke he uses to make disobedience cute. Since when do you have a life? Since I stopped using mine to fix yours, I replied, and we both winced. My aunt texted a photo of Grandma looking small in a big chair with the caption, "Wish you were here," as if guilt could teleport. I called Grandma and we spoke about birds at her window. She told me she loves me and that pigeons are braver than people because they know how to live in a city that doesn't want them. I cried after we hung up, quietly, because refusing the rules didn't mean refusing love. And love is loud in our family. At work, Noor slid a sticky note onto my desk. Boundaries are bridges with tolls. I repeated it like a psalm. Friday, my brother called with logistics disguised as jokes. So when Mom texts urgent because the rice cooker is doing that thing, we ignore? We send the manual, I said. He laughed, then asked, what about Dad's doctor appointment? I said, put it on the calendar. I can take Tuesday mornings every other month. He said, look at you, unionizing the family. I said, look at us, surviving. Saturday morning, my mother appeared at my door with a casserole and a lecture. I raised you to help, she began. You raised me to tell the truth, I answered. This is mine. She put the casserole down like a truce and looked at my fridge. Rules? She read them again. Slower. You won't loan money? I will give small gifts I choose. Loans made us liars. She bit her lip on an old grievance. Your uncle has a job and a car and a habit, I said gently. My money won't fix his habit. She stared at the paper like it owed her an apology. And you won't mediate? Only if both sides agree to my terms. Which are? No yelling. No scorekeeping from 15 years ago. We stop when someone says stop. She rolled her eyes. Therapy talk. Respect talk, I said. We drank tea. She told me about church ladies who had disappointed her by being human. I told her about a deadline that acted like a toddler. We were two women defrosting the relationship that family rules had frozen into roles. When she left, she hugged me the way you hug a person who won't be bent, and I hugged back like a person made of bend and bone. Climax found us at a birthday that was already fragile. Grandma's 87th, the matriarch summit. We rented the community hall with its stubborn acoustics and brown folding chairs. The rule in our family: milestones are pageants. My mother had a spreadsheet and a crown she wore in her head. I arrived with the cake I'd ordered from a bakery because I have learned to outsource my heroics. On the sign-up sheet, my name appeared beside short speech, a slot I had not volunteered for. You always speak well, my mother said, fake, innocent, sliding the index card into my palm like a dare. You always decide for me, I answered, and handed it back. Her eyes flashed. Don't be petty. Don't be controlling, I said softly. My aunties circled like birds who smell a storm. My father approached with the man, smile that tries to oil gears with jokes. Let's not ruin the day, he murmured. We can fight tomorrow. We can be honest today, I said. The microphone squealed, because metaphors have jobs too. My cousin, who runs on diplomacy, grabbed it and began welcoming everyone. Plates clinked. Kids ran. Grandma smiled like a lighthouse. Then a cousin who had decided I was the villain posted a poll in the family group chat. Who agrees that family comes first? My phone vibrated with the confidence of people who love easy answers. I put it face down. During photos, my mother tried to place me next to the cake table, in case of emergencies, as if icing is my destiny. "No," I said. "I'll sit with Grandma. It's her day." The word no made the air crisper. My aunt whispered, ungrateful the way some people whisper, "Amen." When it was time for speeches, my mother signaled me. I shook my head. She went to the mic with her face set. "Family is sacrifice," she said, staring at me. "Family is stepping up when people won't." The room hummed. I stood, walked slowly to the mic, and asked Grandma if she'd like me to speak. She squeezed my hand. "Say what's true," she said. So I did. I talked about Grandma teaching me to peel potatoes toward my thumb so I wouldn't slip. I talked about how she waters plants like apologies and thanks, both. I said the truth that makes aunties frown. That love without consent is just duty in a pretty dress. I said my new rule wasn't a rejection of our family. It was a bet that we could love each other without making one person disappear to make the table look full. Someone gasped. Someone clapped. My mother's mouth set like cement in summer. After, in the kitchen where all real wars end, she exploded softly. "You humiliated me." "I told the truth," I said. "You made a scene." "The scene existed," I answered. I pointed to it. My father tried to split the difference. "Couldn't you have been gentler?" "I'm being as gentle as the situation allows," I said, and meant it. We stood amid foil and forks, 3 people practicing a new language with old mouths. Grandma shuffled in and said, "Sit down." We did. She told my mother, "You were worse at 25. She told me, "You're better than you think." She told my father, "You always overcook the meat." We laughed because she is the only person who can say anything and turn it into love. The storm passed over, not through. We returned to the party with eyes that had learned something even if our tongues were not ready to admit it. Falling action looks like bored group chats and new habits. After the birthday, the volume dropped. My mother went 3 days without texting me a request dressed as a suggestion. My father sent a photo of a bird at the feeder without attaching a chore. My aunt posted a Bible verse about kindness without tagging me like a subpoena. I kept my rules on the fridge and obeyed them, especially when guilt tried to cosplay as urgency. Cousins learned to ask early or ask someone else. One brave uncle created a shared spreadsheet for rides and meals. My mother declared it cold, then used it twice. I started saying, "I have capacity for X, not Y," like a person who knows the size of her own hands. On a Wednesday, my mother called with a real emergency. "Grandma faint, ambulance." A long afternoon, and I went without checking the calendar because rules and love are different rooms in the same house. I sat with Grandma in the hospital and read the menu in a cheerful voice. I watched my mother's mouth soften because she could see the difference between no to being exploited and yes to being needed. Back home, I hosted a small dinner for myself and 2 friends. The table didn't sag under obligation, and the food tasted like a secret I was willing to share. My father came by to drop off a toolbox I didn't ask for and stood awkwardly in my doorway like a teenager. He said, "I'm proud you speak up." Then he ruined it with a dad addendum about tone, and we both laughed, relieved. My mother, to her credit, tried. She texted, "Sunday dinner at 5, say no if no," and I said, "No this week, yes, next." She sent a thumbs up, then a heart, then a stew photo because she is still herself. The biggest change was internal. I stopped narrating my decisions to an imaginary jury. I stopped crafting press releases for my boundaries. I started treating no as a period and yes as a promise. Money became a neat column instead of a secret river that fed other people's gardens while mine went dry. Time returned to me like a lost dog who remembered my hand. There were relapses. One cousin started a rumor that I thought I was better than everyone. I let it be a rumor instead of my problem. An aunt asked me to mediate a fight and balked at my terms. I declined, and the fight eventually burned itself out on their shore instead of mine. On a quiet night, my mother called to ask what book I was reading. We talked for 20 minutes about characters as if they were neighbors. At the end, she said, "I didn't cry today." I said, "Me neither." We laughed, and I realized the falling action had become our new plot. Resolution didn't arrive with a trumpet. It arrived with a checklist and a calm. We built new rituals on purpose. Sunday dinners became potlucks. Whoever hosts sets the time. Whoever comes brings what they can. No one dies if there's too much bread. We made the emergency fund and drew rules around it like fences. 3 signatures to use it. Receipts required. Gifts only. No loans. When Grandma needed daily visits, we built a schedule that didn't sacrifice the same daughter to the altar of reliability. My mother complains about the spreadsheet and then brags about it to her friends. My father discovered he likes ordering takeout once a month and not pretending it's inferior to his grill. I chose which holidays I wanted and left the rest to people who feel strong about ham. In private, I wrote a small code to myself on an index card I keep in my wallet. I don't abandon me. When the old reflexes kicked, I touched the card like a talisman and asked, What would abandoning me look like right now? Then I did the opposite. On a day in late summer, my mother stood in my kitchen and watched me refuse a last-minute request from a cousin with a history of conflating crisis with poor planning. I said, "I can help you think of options. I can't be the option." I put the phone down. My mother nodded, slowly, like a metronome learning a new tempo. "You sound like me to my boss," she said, surprised into pride. Maybe I should write rules for work. We sat with iced tea and laughed until the dog barked at our joy. When the anniversary of my refusal came around a Sunday again, because symmetry, my family forgot to stage a war. We ate, told old stories with less varnish, and nobody volunteered me for a job I didn't want. Grandma fell asleep in her chair and woke to ask for cake. We gave her 2 slices because the new rules include generosity that doesn't martyr anyone. Later, at home, I took the paper off my fridge and rewrote the rules in a cleaner hand, not because they had changed, but because I had. I added 1 line at the top. "Love and boundaries are a matched set." I sent my mother a photo. She replied with a heart and, after a minute, proud. I cried in the good way, the way your chest gets more room without stealing any from anyone else. When people ask how my family reacted when I refused to follow their rules anymore, I tell them the truth. They resisted, they adjusted, they learned, they forget and remember, just like me. A family is a living thing. It can heal around a new bone. It can choose not to make a saint out of sacrifice. It can plant a garden where everyone waters their own plot and still shares tomatoes. I am the eldest daughter who finally stopped making a life out of apology. I still bring cake sometimes, because I like cake. I still leave early sometimes, because I like leaving when leaving is a choice. The rules now fit in my pocket. The love fits in my house. The door clicks, and it sounds like mine.